South Park's episode, Joining the Panderverse, delivers a biting, satirical takedown of what it sees as Disney's increasingly hollow embrace of so-called woke storytelling, with Rachel Zegler and the upcoming Snow White remake serving as a lightning rod for the show's broader commentary. This 2024 installment of the long-running animated series doesn't hold back. From its animated mockery of Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy to Cartman's nightmare about being replaced by diverse women who won't stop complaining about the patriarchy, the episode hones in on one specific message. Forced diversity without authentic creativity is not progress, it's pandering. At the core of the episode is a metaphor that South Park exploits with its usual brutal clarity. The Pander Stone, a magical object Disney executives use to transform classic characters in the name of diversity, without injecting them with fresh ideas or meaningful development. Kennedy's character repeatedly shouts, "Put a chick in it, make her gay, and make her lame." The crude exaggeration mirrors what many fans have been voicing frustration over, feeling that their favorite stories are being superficially updated in a way that feels more performative than purposeful. The backdrop for this cultural satire is the very real controversy surrounding Disney's upcoming Snow White remake, led by actress Rachel Zegler. Zegler's interviews in the run-up to the film's release stirred major backlash. Her comments, where she dismisses the original 1937 film as outdated and describes the prince as someone who literally stalks her, were seen by many as disrespectful toward a beloved Disney classic. She also emphasized that the remake wouldn't be a love story at all, but instead would focus on Snow White's leadership and independence. For some, these comments were celebrated as a sign of progress. For others, they were viewed as a misguided attack on the foundation of a timeless tale. South Park's critique lies not in the presence of diversity, but in what it sees as the lack of substance accompanying it. The writers go out of their way to clarify this by including a key moment where Cartman, when accused of simply hating diverse characters, responds, "No, Miles Morales is sweet." The point isn't that fans reject new or diverse characters. The frustration stems from taking beloved characters and inserting superficial traits or demographics in place of deeper character development or narrative intent. In short, the show argues that diversity without story is empty. The episode landed at a particularly volatile moment for Disney. The Snow White remake, from the outset, seemed to follow this trend, especially when Zegler's promotional interviews seemed less focused on the film's artistry and more on her critique of the original source material. Online, the pushback was swift and fierce. Zegler's remarks were dissected, parroted, and ridiculed across every platform. Many felt that the actress had not only missed the point of the story she was remaking but also alienated longtime fans in the process. As memes flooded social media and old interviews resurfaced, it became clear that the public perception of the film was slipping fast. The optics of casting someone who claimed she was terrified of the original Snow White and had only watched it once fueled accusations that Disney was prioritizing social messaging over thoughtful casting. In a particularly meta moment, South Park even acknowledges the absurdity of this situation when Cartman checks under his bed for Kathleen Kennedy before begging his mom to assure him that Disney isn't secretly out to ruin everything he loves. The caricature of Kennedy becomes the symbol of creative decisions being made to fulfill corporate social agendas rather than creative vision. The writer's message is sharp. Good storytelling can and should include diverse characters, but it should never be reduced to box-ticking. What makes the episode even more impactful is its willingness to also skewer the other side. In the final scenes, Cartman admits that his own constant complaints about wokeness were lazy too. This self-awareness turns the episode from pure attack into balanced satire. It acknowledges that while Disney's shallow approach to representation deserves critique, so does the knee-jerk reaction from critics who label every inclusive move as woke nonsense. Real representation, South Park argues, should neither be performative nor reactionary. It should be genuine, thoughtful, and earned. Meanwhile, Zegler's involvement continues to stir discourse. Her interviews reveal someone deeply invested in reimagining Snow White as a feminist figure, but her tone has rubbed many the wrong way. Her criticism of the 1937 film as being about a guy who stalks her came off as reductive. Her assertion that this new version would redefine the concept of fairest of them all to mean most just was seen as politically charged reinterpretation of a phrase that, in its original context, simply reflected a fairy tale's aesthetic and symbolic language. Zegler, unlike Halle Bailey, who portrayed Ariel in The Little Mermaid, failed to strike the right balance between representation and reverence. While Bailey responded to criticisms with grace and celebrated the opportunity to inspire others, Zegler's interviews came off as critical of Disney's own legacy. This distinction matters. It's the difference between expanding the Disney universe and burning bridges with its past. South Park capitalizes on this dynamic with one of its most savage visual gags. Kennedy yelling orders in the kitchen of a fancy restaurant, demanding that the chef put a chick in the linguine, make her gay, and make it lame. It's absurd, yet the hyperbole underscores how cynical audiences have become about representation that feels formulaic. The gag draws laughs because it exaggerates what many fans already believe. Decisions at the corporate level are no longer about story but about perception. The broader implications of the episode are important. Disney's track record with live-action remakes is increasingly being scrutinized. Instead of winning over new generations, many of these reimaginings are struggling to justify their existence. They lack the charm, spontaneity, and narrative tightness of their animated predecessors. The Snow White remake could have been an opportunity to reframe a dated story in a compelling way. But so far, it feels more like another entry in the growing list of modernized classics that forgot to tell a story worth remembering. This isn't just about Rachel Zegler or Snow White. It's about Hollywood's approach to cultural evolution. Audiences aren't rejecting diversity. They're rejecting lazy storytelling wrapped in social virtue. And they're tired of being told that criticism equals bigotry. If there's one thing South Park continues to prove, it's that satire can be a powerful vehicle for truth. By mocking both Disney's pandering and the performative outrage of the anti-woke crowd, the episode draws attention to the real issue. Creativity is being lost in the middle of a culture war where everyone wants to win and no one wants to tell a good story. Whether or not Disney changes course remains to be seen. The question isn't whether reboots should evolve. It's how. And if future projects continue down this path of hollow updates wrapped in buzzwords, the audience may finally stop showing up, no matter how progressive the casting. Because in the end, story still matters. Always has, always will.